Namaste and welcome to Sangam Talks. All the viewers that have joined us today are warmly welcomed. Today we will be talking about the mystique of the Mahasiddhas. In this talk, we will delve deep into the enigmatic and mystical world of the Mahasiddhas, renowned for their extraordinary powers and profound spiritual wisdom on longevity, space travel, alchemical processes, and temple Pratishtha. Today we have our expert speaker, Siddhayogi Shriman Adinarayanan, who is the founding guru of Anadi Foundation, a spiritual organization located near Palani. Right after his graduation in the US, Adinarayanan had a spontaneous experience of Samadhi. He then returned to Bharat to inspire young people. He has spent more than 300 days in Mon in a spell of 40 days. I would request the viewers to sit tight through the lecture, as towards the end, you will also have the privilege of asking our expert speaker some questions. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to take over from here.
Namaste. Thank you, Ojasvi ji. And Sangam Talks has always been a very pioneering effort to bring out the core ideals of Bharatiyata. So that way, the deep knowledge traditions that have been embedded in Bharat, that bringing it and making it accessible to the young generation, to the people in current times. That's really amazing work. Let me congratulate you on this wonderful work, and may the good work continue. And namaste, viewers. It's very happy meeting you all through this forum. We have our ashram in a place called Ivar Malai. Malai means mountain or a hill, and Ivar stands for the five. The big five, when we look at, we understand them in this nation to be the Pancha Pandavas. Also, the deeper significance of it is in terms of the Pancha Mahabhutas. So the entire universe is looked at as Prapancha, or that which is formed of the Pancha Mahabhutas. So when we look at the Siddha, Siddhas are masters of the Pancha Mahabhuta and hence masters of this universe. We are located in a region which is the Palani Kshetra. Palani has a very deep history to it. Very, something that reveals to us the deeper aspects of this reality, the inner and the outer reality. So let me begin this session with a story. It's a Puranic story which is of very deep significance. Palani is very famous for Bhagavan Murugan, Lord Murugan. So Murugan is also known as Kartikeya Swami or Subramanya Swami, who is the brother of Lord Ganesha, Bhagavan Ganapati, who are the children of Bhagavan Shiva and Ma Parvati. So it so happens that Narada Maharishi brings the fruit of knowledge, which is a single fruit which cannot be split in half, which cannot be divided, and brings it to Kailash. And Bhagavan Shiva and Ma Parvati have to give it to one of their children. Obviously, the parents like to equally divide it and benefit both the children. But then the condition is that it cannot be split. And hence, there is a simple arrangement, as it happens in all families. There is a simple arrangement that whoever goes around the world will get the fruit. It's a very simple arrangement. So immediately, Bhagavan Muruga flies on his peacock. He is Mail Vahana. So his Vahanam or vehicle is peacock. So he flies around the world. And Bhagavan Ganesh thinks about it and feels that his parents are his world. So he goes around his world, which are his parents, and gets the fruit. When Bhagavan Muruga returns back, he is upset. Whenever you have deep expectations, obviously deep disappointments follow. It can happen when your expectations are not met. So he becomes very upset and he climbs the hill. And later, Bhagavan Shiva appears to him and reveals to him, Param ni Appa. That means you are the fruit that you are seeking. You are the ultimate fruit of everything. So this is of very great spiritual significance. We do various things. We are into so many diverse kinds of activities, constantly seeking fulfillment. If I do this, will I feel fulfilled? If I get this job, that's it, then it's done. If I get this degree, then it's done. If I get this life partner, then it's done. So, like that, we constantly pursue these activities in the outer reality, and we start finding out that it does not fulfill us fully. So that's why in the Siddha tradition, it's very, very, pertinently mentioned. Just like a tree, what is visible is just the, what is on the surface. But what is invisible and what is sustaining the tree is actually that which is under the ground and which is not so very evident. It's not immediately visible. But that those roots are the ones that actually sustain this visible manifestation. Similarly, if we look at this reality around us, what sustains this reality around us in the Siddha tradition is looked at just like, for example, Bhagavan Sri Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita famously, Urdhva Moolam Adhash Shakham. So that means, the roots are up there in deep, we can call it, deep space, or in deeper reality, which is not visible for us through these, through the evidences that we try to pursue. But obviously, the visible reality has to be sustained through the roots that are apparently not visible. So that's where the quest for truth, the quest for perfection, leads a spiritual seeker, an aspiring person, to go deeper into what is this reality, how to make sense of it, and how to master those fundamental principles that will lead to enhanced manifestation, that will lead to enhanced participation in the co-creation of reality. And that's what it is. It is about participating wholeheartedly in the co-creation of reality. However our reality is, it should be small, it could be big, but how do I enhance my participation? And that's where, if we see the Siddhas, the stories that surround the Siddhas are filled with mystical aspects, almost miraculous aspects. But they seem miraculous only to those that have not invested in the scientific principles. When we say scientific principles, Bharat also has to offer deeper sciences that can benefit the entire world, entire reality. And that's where, looking at those deeper principles, then we start understanding that the Siddha tradition is something very, very scientific, very experimental, very engaging, and very, very fulfilling, because you get to participate in the co-creation of reality. And that is very, very fulfilling. So who are the Siddhas? Now, you would have heard of some famous names. For example, our Paramaguru is Agastya Maharishi, who's a great Siddha. He's a Mahasiddha, who is well known from Puranic times. You would have, for example, when Sri Rama was in the battlefield against Ravana, he needed guidance, and Agastya Maharishi offered him the Aditya Hridayam, which would help him overcome the power of Ravana. Like this, Siddhas have always supported Dharma. Similarly, you will find other names. For example, Palani is very famous for Siddha Bhoganadar. So Siddha Bhoganadar, or Bhogar, he's called Bhogar, is also very famous in the Navanath Sampradaya of the North. In the North Indian tradition, there is the Navanath Sampradaya. So the Nath Sampradaya, there Bhoganath is none other than Bhogar, who is part of the Padinettu Siddhargal tradition in South India. That means 18 Siddha tradition in South India. Similarly, you will hear names of Matsyendranath, Nath Sampradaya, who is called Macha Muni in South Sampradaya. Similarly, there is Gorakar, who is called Goraknath in North Indian tradition. Bhogar is also famous in, it is said that he's very famous in the Chinese tradition as Lao Tzu. So you can see Siddhas have had an impact all around the world. Siddhar Ramadevar in the 18th Siddha tradition of Tamil Nadu is also famous as Yaqub in Mecca in the Islamic tradition. So the Siddhas have had an impact all around the world in enriching knowledge, in enriching the human life, how human beings can participate in this reality. So the Siddhas, if we look at, have had deep impact throughout history. And in the Puranic tradition, it's been very clearly mentioned. In the current times, how are they relevant? So that will also be something that we will touch upon as we go along. So this, when we say the 18 Siddha tradition, the Siddhas. Now we think about rishis, munis. There are sages, sants, sadhus, mahatmas. These are different words that have been used for spiritual people. When we look at the spiritual tradition, spirituality is at one end of the spectrum, and the materiality or the material sciences are other end of the same spectrum. So we don't differentiate between the spiritual and the material because it's the same spectrum. It is almost like Vibgr, where the light spectrum from violet to red, or if we expand it, you have the full electromagnetic spectrum. So it is gradations of that, from Ati Sukshma to Sthula. So Sukshma is called, or Ati Sukshma is that which is extremely subtle, which is what we call as a spiritual. And that is the basis for Sthula, or what is called the gross or this manifest reality, this visible reality. So the Siddhas, if we look at, say sadhus, would be those that have exceptionally good value systems, those that are based on dharma, those that work for loka sangraha, those that work for paropakara. Para upakara means helping all jivarashis, all life forms. Those are the qualities of a sadhu. Now, rishis would be those that experiment with a lot of subtle stuff, for example, prana, the mind, the subtle aspects of reality, the spiritual principles behind reality. Now, Siddhas are those that work on this entire spectrum from Ati Sukshma to Sthula. So that means they work along the lines of the Atman or the Jivatma and Paramatma. They work along the lines of the mind, that which is subtle, Sukshma Sharira, and also the Kaya or the Sthula Sharira. How to extend the lifespan, how to attain to longevity, and how to engineer life better for better progression. So this obviously is not so strictly demarcated. It's a full flow. There's a gradation, and hence you would find there is no strict compartmentalization when we look at the nomenclature. When we say Siddhas, Rishis, sants, sadhus, mahatmas. Many sadhu sants have also displayed siddhis. So that's where siddhi is something that everyone has heard of. Siddhis are these supernatural feats performed by great mahatmas or siddha purushas. Some of the supernatural feats, to be able to explain it, let me share with you a story very famous story of Siddhar Tirumular, who's again a very famous Siddha in the Padinettu Siddhargal tradition or the 18th Siddha tradition. So Tirumular was a great Siddha Purusha who traveled to South India, and there he happened to view a group of cows crying over their dead cowherd. The cowherd's name was Mulan. On seeing this, the Siddha Purusha felt moved and hence decided to accomplish something called Parakaya Pravesha or Koodu Vittu Koodu Payaradu. That means, he preserved his body in the trunk of a tree, hollow tree, and then entered through the Sukshma. He entered the body of Mulan and revived the cowherd. On seeing this, the cows were very happy and he led them to the village. And there, his wife, Mulan's wife, observed that Mulan's behavior was not normal. So when she reported this to the village elders, generally in the village elders provide the necessary moral support, the necessary direction to everybody. So on approaching Mulan, they found that this was no normal person. And hence they called him Tirumular. That means a great personage. This is no longer a normal cowherd. And hence, from that time onwards, he felt his job was done by bringing the cows back. And he went back to the hollow of the tree and he found that his body was missing. His original body, that of a Siddha Deha, a great body that has gone through so much tapasya, has been prepared for various siddhis, and that is missing. And that's when he realized it is Shivaburman's Tiruvilayadal, or what is called the play or Leela of Bhagavan Shiva. And understanding this, because the Siddhas have deep knowledge, they understand everything to be a manifestation of the play of Bhagavan, the play of the great God, the Adi Paramashiva. So understanding this, he dwelt in the body of Mulan. And as Tirumular, every year he would come out of Samadhi and his disciples would record a mantra. And that's how the Tirumandiram, which is a very, very famous text of Shaiva Siddhanta. In the Siddha text, Tirumandiram is very famous. So that is a record of 3,000 mantras, which Tirumular, coming out of his Samadhi, every year one mantra would be recorded. So you can imagine, Siddhas are also associated with long lifespan, longevity. And that comes from a deeper understanding of life. Even in modern sciences, much of modern medicine works towards longevity, anti-aging formulae, and so on. Also providing the outward support that is necessary for human longevity. In the Siddha tradition, it is not just the outward support. Obviously, we'll need to work on, let's say, an elixir of life. But it's also the inner mechanisms that are understood, that are mastered. So it's a full spectrum analysis. It's a full spectrum understanding that leads to such great siddhis or such great manifestations, which appear as miraculous. But these are all based on deep observation, deep knowledge processes. These are not ad hoc or random. So that is something very important to understand. When we look at the Siddha tradition, when we look at the Bharatiya tradition, it is not ad hoc. It is not random. It is not superstitious. It has very deep significance. For example, I have applied Vibhuti and Kungumam. So these are, in the Siddha tradition, these are looked at as nanomedicinal particles, Bhasma and Sindura. So which undergo various processes and hence become capable of holding and transmitting deep spiritual vibrations. That's why when we look at a temple prasada, or what we receive from a temple, it will be bhasma, sindura, chandanam, such specific particles which are kept in the garbhagriha and then which soak in the vibrations, the deep spiritual and divine vibrations. Abhisheka is done to the murti or vigraha of the deity, and from that, whatever is left is given as prasada. So that way one can see, for example, in Palani, Bhogar created the vigraha of Murugan, and that's called Navapashana. If we go near Kodaikanal, Bhogar created the Dasha Pashana. So Pashana are deep scientific works. It can be looked at as specific material that have been prepared over a long period of time, which have powerful neurochemical properties, which have powerful biomaterial properties, which can enhance the functioning of the body, the functioning of the mind. And with this kind of an understanding and experimental evidence, the Siddhas worked very, very concretely. That's why if you see now, if we look at the prasada that we receive from a temple, it would be in the form of bhasma, which can be applied at specific parts of the body, which can also be taken in. You will see it has tremendous healing properties, and it also stabilizes the body. And it can be taken in various forms. There will be preparatory procedures that work not just on the body, but prepare the emotions. So the emotions also have to be prepared, and it prepares the thought processes. So it's a full-scale preparation that helps us lead a very fulfilling life and lead a long life. Otherwise, who would want a long life? Someone who's depressed would not want a long life, right? Because they would want to end their depression through whatever means, sometimes even extreme means. So that's where we will need to understand what is called the Purushartha. What is it that gives us meaning and purpose to life? In Tamil, we call it Aram, Porul, Inbam, Veedu. So, or Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Why would someone consider their own lives to be meaningful or valuable? The fundamental idea of value to one's own life, that's very critical to examine. For example, if we have the wrong view about ourselves, then we might not be able to see value to our entire lives. We might be able to see value to a small portion of it. For example, I go to a job that gives me money, and that is valuable because that helps me pay my EMI, But that's a very limited idea of value or purpose. That's where we will need to have much deeper understanding of what is meant by value. So the broad categorization is in terms of Aram, Porul, Inbam, Veedu. Veedu is moksha. And there, very interestingly, say if we look at, the primary meaning to my life is enjoyment. I seek pleasure. I just want to enjoy. And that sense of enjoyment can be guided in deeper and deeper ways. For example, the preliminary enjoyment is for children, for example. They play with toys. Toys are enjoyment for them. It's fulfilling for them. But as we grow up, even our toys, the nature of our toys also grows, right? Here, toys are a placeholder. The nature of the objects that seem to engage us, that also grows, and that progression is captured through what is called tamas, raja, sattva. So tamasic aspects that make us feel enjoyable, gradually we shifted to that which is sattvic. So knowledge is something that is very fulfilling, very enjoyable for people. Various activities are very fulfilling for people. It's not just the objects, right? Not just the possessions in our lives. Even the experiences that we gain are very fulfilling. And the knowledge that we gain can be super fulfilling. Like that, even the idea of enjoyment is appropriately graded. So there, the right view that we have, the worldview that we have, that's very, very critical. For example, in the Siddha tradition, this body is considered the temple where God resides. Right? This is a great view. It's a very liberating view. Imagine about, just think about it. How powerful this view can shape the reality around us. Then how would we participate in various things that happen in our lives when we have this kind of a view? Would we abuse the temple called the body? Would we not maintain it properly because the God resides within? And for the purpose of, divine expression, this body needs to be maintained appropriately. Similarly, another powerful concept that is there is called Anbe Shivam. Anbe Shivam means, love is God. Imagine if you have such a concept, such a worldview, then you would see that you will really appreciate everyone, everything in your life, all the circumstances. There will be gratitude, and that will be beautiful. Then life is beautiful because there is love. And that is not easy. That has to be cultivated. That's why the Siddhas would work systematically on cultivating the body, cultivating the emotions, and cultivating the cognitive processes. So generally we are trained. That's also related to what is called Gurukula. Gurukula education trains, for example, the body to make it robust with yogic processes. There is, asana, pranayama, proper ahara, proper vihara. That means, proper, taking up of food, proper activities of the body to make it robust, and also to enhance the functioning of the body. There would be appropriate, say bhasma, sindura. All these are to do with, say, herbal processes, metallic processes, and even advanced processes that include mercury and such aspects, which help the body become extremely robust from that which degrades to that which does not degrade. In fact, that is why we say Mrityurma Amritangamaya. There is a very famous Upanishadic chant. Mrityurma Amritangamaya. So that continuity with respect to even the body is considered very important in that tradition. So that's called Kaya Siddhi. Kaya Siddhi means, Kaya means the body, and how to help the body retain life for a long period of time. Right? Similarly comes the emotions. So there would be bhakti, there would be puja vidhis that the Siddhas have mentioned, Agastya, Bhogar. There are very famous works that mention puja vidhis, how to connect with the great, say, Bhagavan Shiva, Ma Parvati, or Bhagavan Vishnu, or Bhagavan Muruga, Bhagavan Ganesha, various Devi Devatas. All of those are fundamental manifestations of the fundamental principle that's called Irai Porul, or the fundamental principle, which lead to various manifestations, which are the great devatas, all coming from the same source. That source is called Paramashivam. That fundamental principle leads to so many diverse manifestations, and hence you can have your Ishta Devata, which is as per your liking, your ruchi, who you connect with. You can pray to them. And that enhances your connect, and that gives you solace. It gives you wisdom. It trains your heart. Not just the brain, but your heart is trained. Your emotions are trained. And that's very important to experience. To experience fulfillment, we need to have a heart, Otherwise, knowledge can be dry. Similarly, it's important to train the mind, the brain, the thought process. And those are trained through various sadhanas. Like there is a sadhana of, there is prana sadhana, there is vashi yoga, there is japa, there is dhyana, there is samadhi. So samadhi has been given a lot of importance, where you train the thought process, make it one-pointed. There is nirodha parinama that happens to the chitta. The chitta gets transformed. Then there is ekagrata parinama, by which the mind becomes one-pointed. That one-pointed mind is considered a great tool to pierce the this prapancha, to be able to participate in it wholeheartedly. So it's a systematic training of the body, emotions, and the thoughts by which you can have an enhanced participation with this reality. And how enhanced can it be? So now uh, we come to the core ideas of the mystical aspects, the siddhis. Siddhis are nothing but enhanced participation with this reality, right? Perfected participation that comes with years of training the body, the emotions, and the thought. And these are looked at in terms of a spiral is looked at as the thought stream, and the cyclical movement is looked at as the emotions or the magnetic component. And then the body is looked at as in terms of a circular movement. All matter is looked at in those movements. So mastering these various movements of the body, emotion, and the thought is possible to everybody if they are interested in it. And that's where cultivating that aspiration. On a normal human being would aspire for, say, food, some sleep, and then some activities that provide for some material comfort, procreation, and so on, simple aspirations. For this enhanced training, they don't aspire for with a simple, normal, growing up process. One is able to achieve all of these. And hence, why would someone aspire for anything greater than this? Over a period of experience, one starts seeing that this is not satisfying. Everything is going on. No, what am I missing? What can I do further to participate in this reality? And that's where a deeper training of the body, the emotions, and the thoughts become very essential. And with that training, we can participate in this reality. So when we take the siddhis, for example, there is the Atma Siddhi. With the process of death, for example, this body disintegrates into its underlying components. The mind, similarly, for many people, they disintegrate. And hence, the Jivatma is not consolidated. So Atma Siddhi becomes very, very important concept where one can aspire to consolidate the Sukshma Sharira. That means one has worked on the mind and it's become a consolidated entity which does not disintegrate after death. Similarly, one works with the body so that the kaya does not disintegrate. It's consolidated. So these are active effort that comes from deeper aspiration to play with this reality, to participate with this reality. And gradually, as one masters these energies, the kundalini, the various processes, then one starts overcoming the limitation imposed by nature. For example, one of the limitations imposed by nature is, let's say, space travel, right? For example, just yesterday I landed from US, a month-long tour in the US where every day was filled with activities. But now you don't see so much of a jet lag. While now I should be suffering from jet lag. So we can see even a normal travel, like in a flight, going from one part of the world to another part of the world, many people cannot handle the strain or the load on the body. And that is reflected in the mind as well. There is a drag. One does not wish to participate and participate in their reality, in their regular lives. One has to take rest. Then imagine how much of a stress it would be for space travel, where it could be a lot of load on this body, a lot of load on this mind. And hence, to be able to achieve it, one has to work on stabilizing, consolidating this body. Similarly, consolidating the mind so that one will have a much deeper experience of reality. The necessity for travel for many people is to grow in experience. From here to, if we go there, new experiences come up. meeting new people, new experiences. And that is very fulfilling for many people. Not just eating, sleeping, and going about one's regular, small activities. That's not wrong. But as aspirations develop, one wishes to travel and explore life deeper. And that's where even space travel has been mentioned by the Siddhas in their works like Agastya, Bhogar. You will find such revelations which are very exciting. And now with current modern sciences, we have started exploring exoplanets, like life forms on other planetary configurations, other stellar systems. For example, even the Milky Way galaxy has more than 100 billion star systems. So obviously now scientists have started exploring, other systems where there could be a possibility of life just like on Earth. There is so much more scope for life to exist as per the Siddhas. It's not limited to just this biochemical means what we describe as life. So much more details are available in the Siddha texts. So various space travel mechanisms are explained. For example, Guligai is one such option, which is like a plug and play model for travel through space. You can just plug it into your body, and your body can fly through space. But then, obviously, the impact on the body, you can imagine. It's not easy. If we go to a different time zone, many of us have jet lag. That means traveling through space will have its own challenges. So that's why mastering the breath, for example. So breathing can be a big challenge. If we go to the heights of Himalayas, many people face breathing challenges because the partial pressure of oxygen is lower, considerably lower. So the capability of the body to sustain in different conditions has to be tested, has to be worked upon. And that is something, that is a path that the Siddhas clearly show us, where to enhance our experience of life, we need to grow the range of circumstances that the body and mind can expose, we can expose them to. If the range is too narrow, then it's not so satisfying, not so fulfilling. So that's where there are deeper mechanisms, like for example, biomaterial process. Now there is so many engineering mechanisms available to enhance biomaterials, which can be embedded onto the body for various purposes, for healing, for medicine. So there again, Siddhas have given exceptional insights as to how to nurture this body. Site-specific drugs. So site specificity of drugs is very, very big challenge. Siddhas have managed that. So in the Siddha medicinal process, there are enhanced, one is enhanced functionality of the body. Another is healing of various health challenges, of diseases with intuitive wisdom, that can be easily applied, say mass medicine, because the cost of medicine otherwise is very prohibitive. It can be very challenging for a government to take care of the medicinal requirements, the health requirements of all its citizens. That's where Siddha medicine offers powerful insights in terms of even mass medicine. So we can look at temple processes. For example, Bhogar installed the Navapashana Vigraha of Murugan. And there were puja vidhis. All of these are, if we look at it from one perspective, this is mass medicine for thousands of years. So more than 5,000 years, it's been a continuing tradition every day where Abhishekam is performed and people get healed of so many of their problems. They come with vrata, they take up vrata, come there on a padayatra, and then get benefited by that prasadam. And they experience miraculous healing. So these all are possibilities of studying so that we can utilize the benefits that have been shared with by the Siddhas. Similarly, to augment human capabilities, various kinds of work have been done. Various kinds of details have been given. These all are possible to work upon concretely. Now, it goes much deeper, there, where the Siddha tradition even talks of Jiva Samadhi, where they would enter themselves, and they will be available for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and people would experience miraculous benefits by being in that region. They would appear in dreams and instruct. They would solve problems. They would be able to guide humanity along so many lines. So these are active interventions or active guidance that is available, by the Siddhas. We belong to the Siddha Sampradaya, where our Gurudeva is Mahavatar Kriya Babaji, who is very famous in the North Indian tradition as well as in the South Indian tradition. He was initiated by Siddhar Bhoganadhar. He also had darshan of Agastya Maharishi in Kutralam region of South Tamil Nadu. And he's been for 1,000 years, more than a couple of thousand years, he's been an active guide for various Mahatmas across the world, guiding humanity along the lines of compassion, kindness, love, harmonious, living together without conflict. So all these are very important value systems. So the Siddhis, when we look at, it's not about just supernatural achievements, but it's about the deeper spiritual value systems where everyone is a spark of the same divine principle. And hence, everyone needs to live in harmony with mutual love and respect, supporting each other in deeper experience of life, which will lead to fulfillment, which will lead to a state where one returns back home. That's called moksha griha, or that's what is called veedu thirumbarathu. So that is an active guidance that the Siddhas provide us. Anybody who wishes to orient themselves gets this active guidance. And towards this, after my experience of Samadhi, I did engineering, so I knew only computer science, all engineering stuff. I did not know how the mind operated. So when I had this experience of Samadhi, it was a spontaneous awakening. I did not have knowledge of how these processes work. That's when I started investing in studying about these. That's how gradually I started understanding that these are well documented. These are rigorous knowledge processes that are available for everybody to benefit from and to be able to participate wholeheartedly in their lives. And there, as I started going deeper, the experience of Samadhi and how it is relevant to current times, how it's relevant to everybody to deepen their aspiration to grow forward concretely, not vague. Especially now that if we see the nervous stimuli that a normal human being receives, a few decades back it was nothing at all, but now with constant stimulation received from devices through various means, now the stimuli is not wrong, but the capability to handle those stimuli becomes very important to invest in. And this is not ad hoc, because if we don't invest in building that capability to handle, say, nervous stimuli, which more and more we will be living in immersive environments, which constantly stimulate our nervous system, then it would be an extreme nervous load. It could be a burden for many people, which would be depressive in nature, which would lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and such conditions. So that's where the Siddha process become very relevant. I started realizing. I had an experience of my Gurudeva, Mahavatar Kriya Babaji, and his guidance has been very, what can be called very directed. And definitely the guidance of the Siddhas have been very, very directed. And that's how in 2015 we were directed after spending many months in Mauna Tapasya. So at a stretch of about a mandala, spending time in Mauna Tapasya, we were intuitively guided to position ourselves in a region which was a Siddha Kshetra. So Ivar that's how we set up an ashram in 2015. And from then on, from the experience of Samadhi, I was intuitively guided, there was Agnya, to return back to Bharat, to be of service to everybody. So the core intention is for everyone to live harmoniously, peacefully within themselves, and with health, with good cheer, so that they can participate in making this world, this reality, a better place to live in. That is a very fulfilling experience. That is a homecoming experience. Veedu Thirumbardu is the moksha griha, and that is available to every jivatma. Having come to this bhuloka for a very short period of time, investing in these deeper processes, then we gain a vision of where is it that we are coming from, where is it that we are proceeding, and that can give a very liberating perspective as to how to make the best use of the time that we are embodied. Right. So, welcome to the Siddha Yuga. With this, let me stop here, and I'm open to again back to you, Ojasviji.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very insightful and simplified, you know, uh, dissertation sort of what the mass one can expect within the Mahasiddhas. One of the questions that was asked was with regard to Hanuman. So you know how we call him Ashtasiddhi or Nidhi ke Data. Would it be how can we exactly differentiate between Nidhis and Siddhis? I think that would
Yes.
be the first question.
So, if we look at Siddhi, so Siddhi is something that we work towards, and then it gets integrated. Nidhi is something that we are granted. It is like, for example, let's say I have, my father is a multimillionaire. Then I will have, as his son, I might, get that as part of the Nidhi. So Siddhi is something that you actively work towards, you actively, aspire for and work towards. So that way, Hanumanji was my Ishta Devata when I was a child. So he's a very favorite. So he's a very great Chiranjeevi. So Chiranjeevi means, one who exists for a very long period of time in the same body. So that means obviously he's a Siddha Purusha. In fact, it is mentioned of Sri Ramachandra Prabhu, who is also a great Siddha Purusha. When we say Bhagavan Ram, the 14 years of Vanavasa, the first 10 years he spent in various ashramas of various rishis, mastering the various Siddha processes, by which later he could defeat the great Siddha Ravana. Because these are concrete knowledge of deep mystical process, mantra, yantra, tantra, so many different processes which are not visible to us now, because now we are just working at the surface level. But as we go deeper, for example, many of us have not invested in working with our own emotions. We have not mastered our emotions. It's overwhelming for many people. That's why stress, anxiety, we have not worked towards mastering them. Similarly, we have not worked towards mastering the thoughts. Yeah, for many people, the experience of thoughts is that it's at best ad hoc. It's random. Suddenly something comes from somewhere. We have not worked towards mastering them. These are not part of the current educational curriculum. So that's where, when we listen to stories of, say, Hanumanji or Bhagavan Sri Ram, it's out of the world. We think that it's not even aspirational. For many people now, unfortunately, it's not even aspirational. While Bhagavan Ram or Hanumanji clearly show that you can aspire for it and achieve it. So there, Hanumanji, it's clearly mentioned, he had Ashta Mahasiddhas. So the siddhis that we discussed till now are the lower order siddhis. The Mahasiddhis are something phenomenal. For example, Anima, Lagima, Mahima, Garima. So these are all, you can see, these are again, that's why I put it in a framework without mentioning the exact siddhis. If we look at the Ashtamaha Siddhis and the other Siddhis, they all fall within the framework of one is, let's say, working with the body, working with the emotions, and working with the thought. But this is like very, very deep, where if you learn how to interoperate all of these, then you would see thought has great power. You can direct it, and that will create or manifest reality in ways that one cannot imagine. So that's where, as we learn to work with these, then gradually these siddhis manifest, where anima, or you can make this yourself atomic in nature. You can make yourselves huge, very huge. These all seem like out of the world right now, but these are all siddha processes or knowledge processes that have all been documented. So if it's been documented so much, that means that these are valid. Just like, for example, when we look for evidence, proof. Now, in modern sciences, we look at evidence in the body of knowledge called science. But science, the way it works is it's evidence-based research that happens and people publish in the scientific journals. Similarly, if we look at in the Indian tradition, we have the valid means of knowledge, pramana, are looked at as pratyaksha, anumana, agama, or shabda pramana. So agama or shabda is the Veda or the agama, which are bodies of knowledge. That means including our Itihasa Purana and various agama shastras, all of those record such siddhis. Obviously, they would not be just ad hoc mention or just a fantastic mention, right? These are very serious works, just like scientific journals, very rigorously tested and experienced by rishis, by siddhas, by munis, and documented very clearly. So that is evidence. Just because it does not exist in our experience, which is called pratyaksha pramana, does not mean it is not valid. That's where when we look at such terminologies, Ashtamaha Siddhis, and Hanumanji is a master of those Siddhis. It's clearly mentioned. So these stimulate our interest. Then we start asking questions. What is it? Just eating, sleeping, just doing the normal routine. Is that what life is, or is there something more to it? That helps us grow deep within within ourselves.
So there's also a story about Hanumanji where it is said that his last 3 or 4 siddhas were left and his guru was Surya. So those siddhas could only be achieved post-marriage, because of which he had married Suvarchala Devi, whose temple we also have in Andhra. So could you talk about what exactly post-marriage siddhas mean?
So if we look at from the angle of, now generally we have body consciousness. That means we look at things from a physical dimensional perspective. But to be able to explain deeper aspects, we would need to step back. We will need to detach from this physical dimensional perspective and look at the core of what drives this physical dimension. Then one would look at diverse energies interacting. So it's energies interacting that create various manifestations. And that too, if we look at in the life of say Hanumanji, who is a Chiranjeevi, he exists across yugas. So in Dwapara Yuga, Bhima meets his brother, who is also a Vayuputra, and that interaction is very, very interesting. And Bhima asks Hanumanji to show his Rupa during Treta Yuga. And the Rupa is so fierce that the great Bhima is terrified. So now we cannot even imagine what that would be, because what is meant by that? No, how does it? It's been clearly mentioned all through Mahabharata that Bhima is, absolutely fearless. He does not have fear for lions, for elephants, he has the bala of tens of thousands of elephants. That much bala. And hence he has no fear. For the first time, he encounters fear. And that is on seeing the Treta Yuga form of Hanumanji. So we can clearly see someone who exists across yugas. They would have a lot of experience. And hence it would not be linear. So at appropriate times, for specific purposes, they would adopt specific strategies. And that's where, for very specific purposes, even marriage is considered very important. For example, Agastya Maharishi, it's mentioned. Agastya Maharishi seeded Lopamudra Devi in the Vidarbha kingdom, and then later, after she grew up, he married her. So Lopamudra Devi, and Agastya Maharishi, the marriage is very unique. If we go deeper into the Indian, historical episodes, we start seeing that civilization is not recent at all. Civilizational processes have existed for a very long time. And initially, the Puranas described that the birthing process was Ayonija. Ayonija means, not through a womb. That means, it's more like a hermaphrodite, not a male, female, not so strictly limited by gender, but more hermaphrodite based operations. That is something that we are currently trying to grapple with. So the idea of marriage itself, when we apply it to the Siddhas, we will have to start looking deeper into how the mind works, how the fundamental reality works. It might not be just to do with gender or just to do with male, female. It might not be just that. In the yogic tradition, for example, the nervous system is looked at as a combination of male and female, which is Ida and Pingala, while that is to sustain the Sushumna, which is hermaphrodite in nature. So like that, as we go deeper, we start gaining very critical insight.
I think that brings us to the end of the question and answer session as well, sir. Thank you very much again for that insightful talk. Bringing about how Mahasiddhas can actually be integrated into a common person's life, because oftentimes we have these idols who are great and it seems like that's the prerequisite to achieve it, but it is in fact the outcome of pursuing Mahasiddhas that you talked about. Maybe one of these sessions we could actually talk in great detail about the Samadhi experience that you mentioned you had. Thank you again, sir. And we wish to have many more sessions like this with you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much. Thank you to you and to Sangam Talks for hosting this. And to all the viewers, our best wishes. Namaste.